All right, thank you for having Korean history class. My name is Eddie. Okay, so what I'm going to describe for you today is about the history of Korea. At first, before trying to go for class, I'd like to make some apologize for what happened just before. You see, I tried to give a lots of knowledge to the other foreigners who are very interested at the Korean history, but there was a noisy sound from outside, so it might be very interruptive for other people. So I made a decision to try to make as another the presentation PowerPoint, and I like to go for a speech. Okay, so before when you try to go for the history of Korea, it's very important to understand about the comparison between the history between United States and Korea. In general, if we try to understand about the history of the United States, the history of the United States is more about the 300 years. So, as I know that the American history has been started as the 1700s. At that time, the first president of the United States was George Washington. Um, George Washington was the first leader who tried to lead the country of the United States. Okay, then the Korean history is more than about the 5,000 years, right? So okay, I'm going to go for next page for more information. All right, as I told you in this topic, as I tried to say is that the Korean history is more than about the 5,000 years, right? But it really has the great history. But when you try to think of the history of the United States, it's more about 300 years. Whenever we try to understand about the history of Korea, it might be a true story or it might be as a make-believe story, but I think that the history of Korea came from the myth with using animals. So I hope that everybody must be the very interested about the story. Okay, let's try to go for next page. When you try to think of the history of Korea, history of Korea came from the myth of Tangun, right? Okay, let me tell you about the legendary story of Tangun myth. Long, long time ago, there were a bear and a tiger. At that time, the bear was really fat and tiger was very slim. When they tried to look at the human being, the both bear and tiger felt envy with them. Both bear and tiger wanted to become as a human. So one thing that we could able to understand about this paragraph is that according to animals they try to become as a human, right? But let's try to think in general or try to think as if on the philosophy ways. God creates human and God creates the animals, but I think that it's very impossible to change as animals to humans. It might be a lot of challenges for God. So I think that each and every human has to live whenever they try to born as an animal, they try to live as an animal. But if we try to live as a human, they try to live as a human, right? So according to the God's opinion, I think that it might be very difficult to create a human for animals. So let's try to go for the next story. So what happened to this story is that so they prayed to God and they tried to become as a human. After that, the heaven came to the world and tried to listen what the bear and tiger want. So the God heaven tried to figure out that they want to become both bear and the tiger wanted to become as a human. So I believe that after that, the God is trying to consider really carefully about the situation because, as I described, that to change as animals to humans might be very difficult, right? So the God is trying to make as a decision to give garlic and mugwort. Mugwort is kind of a plant, but it usually describes as a Korean herb. So he tried to give as a mission to them. If you're trying to eat this, then don't look at the sun for a while. Then I'm surely that you'll become as a human. So both bear and tiger might be very challenging for them to become as a human. I believe it's a tough challenge that both the bear and the tiger want to become as a human, but let's both the bear and tiger try to give a try to eat and stay at the cave for a while. In general, if you try to eat on the garlic and mugwort is very bitter taste and garlic is very spicy. So even humans, if they try to, they cannot be endure with that, but they try to give us a try. So when both the tiger and the bear are trying to eat the garlic and mugwort, finally the tiger tried to give up with this challenge. It's because I think that they cannot endure about the bitter taste and spicy taste and everything, right? So the most important point is that what happened to the bear? Okay, let's try to find out in next page. So as you can see, the most important point is that finally the bear tried to sleep at the cave, and then they tried not to look at the sun. So finally the god of heaven they came to the land, and I think that the god feels really happy to the bears because they try to endure and try to become as a human. So the god made the bear to as the beautiful slim lady. So when the bear changes to the slim lady, the god heaven tried to call to her as Unya. It's very important to understand about the definitions about what is Unya. The meaning of Unya could be described as a bear woman. So I'm surely that the meaning of Unya is they try to change from the bear and the woman, so that's why they try to call as Unya. Okay, let's try to look at the information and see what has happened in next page. So after that, what happened was the Unya felt very thankful to God and make it as a human. But when that bear tried to become as a beautiful lady, so she has her wish. What kind of wish does she have is that maybe she wants to get as a future husband and deliver a baby and get married, right? So I think that the during the ancient times, but both men and women when they try to fall in love with each other and they try to date and try to get married and they try to get live happily ever after, right? So they pray to the God about the situation. So finally, what does the heavens try to make as a decision is that they try to came down to heaven. At that time, the emperor of the heaven's king name was Huan Yin. They tried to make as a decision to get married to Unya. So after that, she delivered a son. That the son name was Tangun. He was the first leader of the Joseon dynasty. I can able to say that the Joseon dynasty was the ancient time of Korea. This is the first history of Korea. So when you try to understand about the history of the United States, many immigrants when they try to come to United States, they try to use as the Mayflower and Mayflower ship and arrive to the eastern part of the United States, which is called as Massachusetts in current ages, right? Then it's kind of the that many of the discovery people are trying to look at the country of the United States, but according to the story of the Tangun is quite different. Alright, so this is all for class. So that what I would like to describe is that thank you for watching with this story. So what I want to say is that I'm doing for as a YouTube channels for the which is called as a Kim's Language, Culture, and Lifestyle. So I hope that everyone could subscribe my channel so it might be helpful to understand about the Korean history, right? Okay, so next class is very important to understand about next class is that of course I'm going to write more details about the Korean history, but what I would like to describe is that it's very important to understand about the history of the Korean companies like Samsung and LG and Hyundai, right? So according to next class of a Korean history, I'm going to describe about the history of the Hyundai Group and Hyundai Motor Company. It might be very interesting to understand about the historical facts with that. Okay, thank you for listening for the Korean history. I'm going to see you in this next class. Thank you very much.